You remember back in September here on One I'm Not Podcasting, I actually did quite a bit of videos regarding Joe Rogan. You know, it's just one of those things that people wanted to talk about, and with the name King of Podcasts, it's just something I would definitely be following. Now, I have not. I'm a Spotify subscriber, and I have not listened to a show. Not in a while. It's just, it's because for me with Spotify, it is a little bit tough for me to go ahead and say, okay, I got to remember to go and go to the podcast section. There's not anything that really gives me like a home, or like really like a home menu where I get to go and see, oh, look, these podcasts are up. These are new episodes. I think if Spotify offer that on the homepage of their app, that might be one thing I would actually look at. If it is, I'm not paying attention to it, and it's too far down the page for me to go and scroll down and look for it. So that's one of those things. And I have not listened to what he's done lately. I've caught some clips here and there, but that's about it. And then again, I listen to Spotify. I always used to listen to Spotify in the first place for music, not really for podcasts. Not disputing the fact it's not a great podcast app. It is. But I for podcasts, I want to know, I just can't go to one place for multiple things. So for podcasting, I go to Google and their app, which is pretty good. And they give you a nice little list of what the latest episodes, including mine, which I just take a look and make sure everything's working and it's copacetic is the word. So anyway, a story from Sportskeeda came out saying, quote, Spotify is a terrible experience, end quote. Joe Rogan fans want him back on YouTube after Spotify is plagued with ads. So, as we know, Joe Rogan had his show back on YouTube, started off as early as 2009, and the Spotify exclusive podcast was initially planned as an audio-only podcast, which got a lot of backlash. So, Spotify was convinced by Rogan and his team to include video content in the podcast. And then, despite the addition of the video content, fans are still disappointed with the switching to Spotify. So there are mid-podcast ads, so mid-roll ads, like even on some of my programs, not on this one in particular, but to video podcasts not supporting television coverage, fans have had many problems with the switch to Spotify. And despite the cries from the community, Spotify has made no moves to introduce the broadcast feature for television. So fans are forced to watch the show on their phones or digital tablets, or watching on a TV is not an option. So fans have stopped following the show altogether. And not being able to watch the Joe Rogan Experience on their TV is a deal breaker for many fans, which is how I used to watch it as well. When it was a YouTube episode and I was like, oh, this is a good guest. Okay, I'll flip it on. Then I'll watch. But again, taking away from YouTube, I get the part, and I think some people would have watched the audio version or listened to the audio version as well, which is where Spotify came in. But again, they put so much money down on Joe Rogan to even do that. That's the whole point. Now, given that Joe Rogan is legally tied to Spotify for the duration of the contract, the experience is unlikely to make a return to YouTube anytime soon. But he did sign a multi-year deal. He has 10 million subscribers on his YouTube channel, so people can go and still watch clips. And that's too bad. And the thing is, I think with Spotify, I don't think that there is a version to watch video content on their app, at least on Amazon Fire, which is the way I would be able to watch it. But again, I'm not going on my way to do that. I have been getting myself a little more accustomed to putting on Spotify generally to get on there. But Spotify is a part of a bigger story. So another story came out from Digital Music News, and Paul Resnikoff wrote, I pay $9.99 a month for Spotify Premium. Why am I listening to podcast ads? Now, personally, I'm glad I haven't really listened to the podcast on Spotify so much, because I didn't realize they had all these different programs that had ads within them in the premium platform. Very interesting. So it's not just Joe Rogan being peppered with ads. Other Spotify podcasts are full of lengthy spots. And because Spotify hasn't filled a lot of its inventory, many of the ads repeat over and over again on smaller shows. All of which sounds reasonable for non-paying listeners, but absolutely absurd for those forking out $10 a month for the premium tier when it's marked as ad-free. I didn't realize that was going on. And, one of the things that people need to understand, too, is that it might not be Spotify putting out the ads themselves, because there are a lot of shows like mine, my wrestling podcast and my media podcast, the Broadcasters podcast, where I have ads embedded. and that's my audio host. So some of the audio hosts already have dynamically inserted ads. So that's becoming a normal thing anyway. Now, you could get that confused with that. But again, I have not listened to some of the top tier Spotify podcasts and realized they started putting ads in them. That kind of sucks. Now, Spotify told Digital Music News about this. They said the explanation also makes sense if podcasters are spreading their episodes to different... Well, the first answer to irate customers, this is what they said, seems to be they can't control the ads on Spotify's podcast shows. Spotify gives the podcast hosts the option to choose if they would like a dynamic ad slot in their podcast. We understand that many of the creators that you're listening to seem to have an option, using the option, but that's not something Spotify can control. It's up to the individual podcast owners if they choose to have a type of ad in their content, which is true. I don't have that myself. I don't have the luck of that. But Joe Rogan's podcast is stuff with ads. It's exclusive to Spotify. So why are there more than 10 minutes of ads before the start of every Joe Rogan podcast if Spotify is the only place playing in? Well, I mean, obviously, Joe Rogan can still get advertisers. He had all those before on its audio version. But now that you're only accustomed to the video version now has those ads in it, I guess. That's what people don't like. I can get that part. So Spotify now has clarified that the music platform is ad-free. So instead of being something Spotify can control, it turns out Spotify is specifically placing ads in podcasts it producer otherwise controls. So it's double dipping, charging the users, and then serving ads to paying customers. And that sounds a bit risky, but Spotify may be betting that paying subscribers won't care. But the cost of being wrong is that paying customers will flee to rivals like Apple, Amazon, or Google, all of whom have Apple Podcast music selections. Yeah, I know. I get that part, but Spotify, they are ahead of the game. Because there are already certain things that Spotify does more than anything else that absolutely make me go to this platform more than anybody. They have the relationship with Billboard and so many other companies out there that the official chart, Spotify, the charts. I like the charts. And that's what brought me into Spotify 5 years ago. That's what made me say, okay, I'm going to jump right in. I think it was October 2015. I jumped in, premium, absolutely into it. I was like, okay, and I love it. And let's do it a lot. Today's top hits is, you remember Spotify also for what it's worth. I mean, the iTunes has its importance, but Spotify, for whatever reason, has the bulk of the audience. And also they're very good with the Spanish music. For whatever reason, the Spanish music is very prominent on that platform and everything else. And for me, it works. They have crossfade, which no other music platform has. And then after that, I mean, it's just, I just feel like it just gives me more of what I need, of what I'm looking for in a platform. And I don't need an iPhone to use it, because the only other option I would really use is Apple Music. And I tried that. I actually had an account for that, and I didn't like it. I don't like the channels that they have. I mean, the Apple, the Beats One and the hits, the channel they have, I get it, but they're just trying to do some other kind of radio that it doesn't really jive with me. It's, I was hoping when they made the change to Apple Beats One that they were going to do something new with it, but they didn't. And, it's too art. I mean, the artists are good, sure, but the music is like, it's kind of out there. It's not so much of a mainstream content. It's more of like a curated on their own end, being a little artsy for their end, I guess. They want to be a little more MTV-like and trying to force music down you that maybe you're not really interested in. And that's where I feel like they are. But with Joe Rogan and Spotify, there was going to be a risk. Now we're seeing what the risk is. Anyway, I'll leave it there. I'll talk to you next time.